Okay, are there about 21 of you on this course? Have I got the number sort of correct?
15.
Oh, 15. Okay, and I think two can't make it. So that's fine. Okay, so that means everybody's here. Okay, cool. All right, let's get started. It's a bit hot. Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Bev, as you probably know already. And this afternoon session is going to relate to all things Vinyasa. So we are going to discuss everything that I can tell you about Vinyasa. I'll give you as much information about it, starting with the history, building up to sort of modern Vinyasa classes that we teach at the moment. And then we will do a little class. And then if you have any questions about anything, you can ask me afterwards. So basically, I'm here for you to pick my brains, ask me anything that you like. I will try and give you as much info as I can. And yeah, let's see how we go. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself first. I grew up doing yoga in my grand's classes. She taught until she was well over 80. So as a child, I practiced yoga with her. And then I was in and out of yoga when I was growing up. And I'm actually a qualified pharmacist. 5 years ago, I did my first teacher training course with Yo Yoga and stopped pharmacy straight away and started teaching full time. I then did 6 months later, I did my advanced teacher training with Catherine, which was probably one of the best things I've ever done. So you guys are really, really privileged to be on her course with her. She's amazing. And you will learn a hell of a lot more than I think you might on other courses. So you guys are very lucky. So I did my teacher training with her. I teach at quite a few studios around Cape Town. I teach Vinyasa. I teach Power Vinyasa, which is heated Vinyasa. I also teach Hot 26, which was known as Bikram, if you guys know it. And I also did the yin training through Wellness Connection through Carla, who used to teach the wellness, the yin training on this for Catherine as well. So I'm also qualified to teach yin. And so that is what I do now. I don't do pharmacy anymore. I gave it up and I teach and I absolutely love it and I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. So my question to you before we start is, how many of you actually have practiced Vinyasa classes and know what a Vinyasa class is all about? If you can just stick your hand up and I can just see. Okay. Okay, so a few of you. Okay. All right. Okay. So awesome. All right. So we're going to dive into it a little bit deeper. I've got a PowerPoint which we'll go through before we do the Vinyasa class. If you feel like you want to ask any questions, there's a little icon that you can stick your hand up and on the icon, and I will see it on the chat, and then I will invite you to ask a question. Please feel free to interrupt at any stage if you feel that you have a question to ask about anything. As I said, I'm here for you to pick my brains. You can ask me absolutely anything. I'm going to try and give you as much information as I can. Okay, so let me get my PowerPoint up and then we will, oopsie. I've got to remember how to do this now. Okay, wait, now I have to just get this onto sharing first. Hang on a second, sorry. Always got to remember how to do this. Oh, my word. Oh, the order. Not there. Share screen. Share screen. Okay, we want PowerPoint on there. Sorry, give me a second. Okay, can you guys see that? Is it up on your screen? Can you guys see that PowerPoint or not?
No.
No. You can't see it?
No.
Okay, let's try again. Okay, just give me a sec. Why can't I get this to work now? This is really weird. Share screen. And then it should be PowerPoint. Share. Okay, hang on a second. I think I'm winning. You are screen sharing. Great. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. So let me just go to slideshow and we'll say play from start. Okay, is that clear for all of you? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so what is Vinyasa yoga? If you've never done a Vinyasa class, then you might not have any idea. So we're going to just break it down a little bit. Vinyasa comes from two Sanskrit words. Nyasa, which means to place, and V, which means in a special way. So basically what it is placing a sequence of asanas or poses in a way that slowly builds up from less challenging poses to more challenging poses. And Vinyasa is often called flow as well, because you want to try and flow through the poses. We don't hold the poses for very long in a Vinyasa class. Most of the poses we are moving one breath, one movement, and that is the basis of Vinyasa. So it means to place in a special way. In other words, you don't just stick things in willy-nilly. It's all done very methodically. Okay, and the history of Vinyasa yoga, it comes from an ancient text called the Yoga Kuranta, which was transmitted orally to Krishnamacharya by his teacher, Brahmachari. I'm going to let you read some of this. And this ancient text depicted a flowing sequence of yoga poses called the Vinyasa Krama. Okay. It also described how to link mudras, pranayama, which is your breath, bandhas, meditation, and asanas. This was then shared with Pattabhi Jois. And if you don't know Pattabhi Jois, he is the guru who established the Ashtanga Mysore yoga. And from Ashtanga yoga, the Vinyasa yoga developed. So Vinyasa actually comes from Ashtanga yoga. Okay, it's broken down from there. There's a lot of Ashtanga poses in your Vinyasa classes. There's a lot of warrior poses, chaturangas and low plank, high plank, low plank, your Vinyasas and all of that all come from Ashtanga yoga. So that's the basis of where the Vinyasa yoga comes from. The most common example of Vinyasa is, a good example is your sun salutations A and your sun salutations B. And hopefully you would have done those with Catherine or whoever's teaching you at the moment. And that is an idea of moving one breath, one movement. And that is the basis of a flow class or a Vinyasa class, is that you move one breath, one movement. So your focus is not only on the asanas, but it's more importantly on the breath, and creating that rhythmic flow of breath, that ujjayi pranayama that we breathe with, that will guide you through your practice. One breath, one movement, unless we're holding a pose, which we don't hold for very long, or unless we're taking a transition, okay? The Vinyasa moves steadily from pose to pose in sequences, and as I've mentioned, it's linked with ujjayi pranayama. If you haven't done pranayama yet, you will learn about ujjayi pranayama. Basically, that is pranayama or breath that sounds like the waves of the ocean, and you engage your ujjayi pranayama by creating constriction down the back of the vocal cords. So you create texture for that breath and you create sound for that breath. It's almost like Darth Vader, if I can put it that way, from Star Wars. That's what it sounds like almost. So it's a breath that you can hear, and it's a breath that you can feel, and it's a breath that you want to establish to guide you through your practice. In a sequence, in a Vinyasa sequence, anything that is expansive, any pose that is expansive or is opening up or lengthening, is initiated with an inhalation. And then anything when you're contracting or making yourself smaller is on an exhalation. And that's quite important to get that correct when you're teaching Vinyasa, because if you do it the other way around, it just doesn't make sense in your body and doesn't feel right. So anything that's expansive and open is inhale, and everything that is contracting or closed is an exhale. Okay. So this is an example of the Ashtanga primary series. Ashtanga has a lot of series. I think there's a primary, a secondary, and there's about 4 advanced series. Most people who practice Ashtanga yoga spend their whole life basically only learning the primary series. It is very tricky. It's quite a complicated sequence. And if you are practicing true Ashtanga, you are actually not allowed to move on to a pose until you have mastered the previous one. So you have somebody who leads you in a Mysore. They don't guide you through the practice. They let you practice on your own, but you have a guru there to help you and guide you, who will adjust you to get into some of the poses, but will also tell you, and this is if you're practicing Mysore, if you are ready to move on to the next pose. So it's quite restrictive in that you can't just do Ashtanga and do the primary series without any guidance or anything. You actually, in theory, are not allowed to move on to a more advanced pose until you have mastered the pose before. And that may mean that you stuck on the same pose for weeks at a time before you can actually progress. Okay, so that's why it takes people a long time to work through the series. This is an example. This is the rest of the primary series. So as you can see, it's quite a long sequence. A lot of involved different postures, a lot of twists. It's based on back bends and forward folding and twisting. So that is an example of the primary series of Ashtanga, which most people practice. And you will see there's some warrior poses in there. Oopsie, there's some forward folding, like your Janu Shashasana, your Paschimottanasana. There's a little bit of back bending in there. Oopsie. Lots of forward folds. There's also your triangle poses, your warrior 1, your warrior 2. So it starts off with the sun salutations A and sun salutations B, which you're all very familiar with. And so that is your Ashtanga primary series. Okay. If you are, a Vinyasa is progressive sequences. So in other words, you still need to sequence your Vinyasa classes intelligently, which means you start off with less advanced asanas or poses, and then you slowly work to more advanced poses. So obviously you don't start somebody in something like half splits or skandasana or something that's too hectic for the hamstrings. You want to open the body nice and slowly, and the idea is to prepare the body safely for poses that are going to be a little bit more challenging further on in the sequence. So you need to have an awareness of what the postures do in the body, where they open up, what joints they open up, what muscles you're stretching, all that kind of thing, so that you can open up the body slowly and prepare your students for more advanced poses further down in as the sequence progresses. Even the poses are, if the poses are held, then you continue to breathe while the poses are being held. But as I said, most of the time it's one breath, one movement. Each Vinyasa class that you go to offers a different sequence depending on the teacher. So every time you go to a Vinyasa class, it depends entirely on what the teacher has decided to teach for that week, or however long they keep their sequence for, as to what you're going to move through. And sun salutation A and B are often used. So you will see them propping up in Vinyasa classes a lot. As I said, the flow is sequenced to move from simpler to more advanced asanas. And because it is so free and dynamic, and the teachers are welcome to explore sort of any sequence, it makes Vinyasa yoga very interesting. And it's one of the most attractive forms of yoga today. So there are a lot of people that practice Vinyasa yoga. It's very, very popular. That's why it's offered at nearly every single studio that you go to. And a lot of people that do Vinyasa yoga just absolutely love it. So, and each time you take a class, you're going to be working into something different, because the sequence is never ever the same. So this is the difference between Ashtanga and Vinyasa. So Ashtanga is a set sequence. Ashtanga, you practice the same sequence every time. There's a primary, intermediate, and 4 advanced series. Vinyasa, there's a different sequence each time, so you never know what you're going to get when you arrive in a Vinyasa class. It's going to be different each and every time. In Ashtanga, each pose that you get into is held for 5 breaths. For example, if you're in triangle, you're going to hold it for 5 breaths. If you're in downward facing dog, you're going to hold it for 5 breaths. So it's quite a slow, focused practice, in that the poses are held so that you can feel them a little bit deeper. In Vinyasa, it's much more dynamic, and you have 1 breath, 1 movement, and we don't hold all the poses for 5 breaths. In Ashtanga, as I said to you, someone who's practicing may not move on to another pose. And I'm not talking about led Ashtanga classes. I'm talking about Mysore, where you practice on your own. You may not move on to a pose until the previous pose or the previous part of that sequence has been mastered. In a Vinyasa class, there are no rules like that. You can arrive in a Vinyasa class as a beginner and you can do the whole class. The teacher's not going to say to you, excuse me, Annalise or whatever your name is, but you can't move on to that pose because you haven't got the previous pose quite correct. That does not happen. So we can have beginners arriving in an Ashtanga, a Vinyasa class, and they do whatever they can. There's no rules. It just depends on whether they can manage the class or not. And if they can't, they stay in child's pose. And so there's no rules. They don't have restrictions on whether on which poses they can practice and which poses they can't. Ashtanga, there's no peak pose. Okay. In Vinyasa, sometimes the goal is to teach to a peak pose, but not always. Most of the time, a Vinyasa class is just based on movement. So people like to arrive and they like to feel like they've done a little bit of twisting, a little bit of back bending, a little bit of balancing, which is always tricky, maybe something a little bit more advanced thrown in, like a different transition or something that's a bit more challenging. But the Vinyasa classes are not always sequenced to a peak pose. So don't expect to arrive in a Vinyasa class having a peak pose as a goal. That doesn't happen. Sometimes it's based on shoulder opening, or sometimes the class is sequenced around back bends, or sometimes it's sequenced around one particular transition, but there is not always a peak pose that you are working into. And that's the same with Ashtanga. Ashtanga has no peak pose at all. Okay. Oopsie. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing because the whole sequence is called, the whole type of yoga is called Vinyasa. But then if you go to a Vinyasa class, the teacher will tell you to take a Vinyasa back to downward facing dog. Okay, and a Vinyasa is basically a 3-pose transition. So a Vinyasa consists of your chaturanga, which is your low plank, upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. That is called a Vinyasa. In Ashtanga, a Vinyasa is performed between each pose. And in Vinyasa classes, you have a number of poses or a sequence that is performed on one side, starting, let's say, with the right leg first. Then you have a Vinyasa through the middle to reset, and then we practice the same sequence on the other side, so maybe starting with the left leg first. So the Vinyasa is used almost like a little reset between the two sides, just to reset the body, get you back into downward facing dog, where you can breathe for a few moments and have a bit of a break. So if a teacher says to you, take a Vinyasa back to down dog, what they mean is high plank, low plank, chaturanga, upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. And there's an example of what a Vinyasa is. Okay, so it's your low plank, your up dog, and your downward facing dog. And that's used as a little reset between the two sides, normally in a Vinyasa class. So you will see a lot of that. So in a Vinyasa class, there's a lot of chaturangas. In Ashtanga, there are even more. In Ashtanga, you do a hell of a lot of chaturangas because you're doing a chaturanga and that upward facing dog and downward facing dog between each pose. In Vinyasa, there's a few less because you do a whole lot of poses on the one side, then you do the Vinyasa, then you do a whole lot of poses on the other side. So we're not practicing that chaturanga, up dog, and downward dog between each single pose in a Vinyasa class. Okay. There are different types of Vinyasa, and these are all sort of brand names of Vinyasa. So people have taken Vinyasa as it is known, and they have developed something different or special about it, and then they have branded that Vinyasa. And so wherever you go in the world, if you see the types of yoga that I'm going to mention now, you will know what kind of yoga you are going to experience because it's all based around a certain formula. Okay, so there's Jivamukti yoga, there's core power, there's Baptista power yoga, and there's something called Moda Vinyasa as well. I'm just going to go into all of those a little bit briefly. So Jivamukti Vinyasa is a vigorous, fast-paced practice. It was developed by David Life and Shannon Gannon in 1984. Each class has a theme with scripture, chanting, meditation, asana, pranayama, and music. There is a strict interpretation of the yama ahimsa, which means non-violence. And because of that interpretation, the Jivamukti teachers tend to advocate a vegan diet. And this is the kind of yoga, this is the type of yoga that a lot of the celebrities like Sting and Madonna all practice. And so they advocate, because ahimsa means non-violence, that doesn't mean non-violence only to humans, but it means non-violence to animals. So they, as a whole, advocates a vegan diet. So if you went into a Jivamukti class, you would expect scripture, chanting, meditation, asana, pranayama, music. That's what you would expect. Okay, and you would get that wherever you went throughout the world in a Jivamukti class. Okay. Core Power was founded by Trevor Tice in 2002, so it's not that old, it's quite new. They have different levels of classes. Level 1 classes are unheated, level 2 and 3 are heated. And some of the classes utilize weights to build strength. And because it's called Core Power, they obviously incorporate a lot of core work into the sequence as well. Okay, so that is more of a focus, is that they do bring in some core work, usually towards the end of the sequence. Moda Yoga was called Moksha Yoga. It changed its name in 2014. The classes are heated to 38 degrees, and they also offer Bikram or Hot 26, as well as what they call Modo Flow. So instead of calling it Vinyasa Flow, they've brand named their flow to something called Moda Flow. If you look at the temperature of the classes that it says they are heated to 38 degrees, at the studios we teach at in Cape Town, most of the classes are, most of the Vinyasa classes, if they are heated to 38 degrees. So you are practicing your Vinyasa classes. If you are practicing a heated Vinyasa class, you are practicing at 38 degrees. Obviously, there are unheated classes offered as well, which is no heat. But if the class is heated, it is generally heated to about 37, 38 degrees. So that is the temperature that we set for our classes when we teach at the studios. So it's quite warm. It's quite hot. You do sweat. It's not like you're not going to build up a sweat. You most definitely do. Okay, so now I'm just going to break away into power yoga, because from Vinyasa yoga, which was quite slow and deep, although not as slow as Ashtanga, power yoga was developed. And power yoga is a fast-paced, energetic kind of Vinyasa practice, designed to move a little bit quicker from one pose to the next with much less holding of poses. It's more of a workout than the traditional styles, and it's also mostly, not always, but mostly practiced in a heated room. Also the same type of temperature, 34 to 36 degrees Celsius. So you can expect quite a workout. You can expect to do a lot of movement. You can expect to do a lot of poses in a power class. And you're going to be doing that all in a lot of the times in a heated environment as well. So it's quite a, I wouldn't say, yeah, it is quite a strenuous practice, and not something that I would suggest that beginners dive into. I always recommend that beginners start with unheated classes, so that they don't have the heat as an extra thing that they have to deal with. Sorry, I'm just letting somebody else in. So how did power yoga come about? Power yoga was developed by a guy called Larry Schultz, and he studied Ashtanga under Patabi Joyce, who is the person that developed Ashtanga yoga. And he called his kind of, I don't know why I can't admit you, Alice, I'm trying. He called his type of power yoga rocket yoga. And I don't know why I can't admit this person. That's so weird. Hang on a second, guys. Sorry, give me a chance here. Okay, so what he did was he took the 3 Ashtanga series and he devised sequences around the Ashtanga poses, and he devised the sequences around the joints. So example, one of his power classes might be all hip-based, or hip related, and then another one might be hamstring related, another one might be back bending related, another one might be inversion related. He decided to do this because he didn't like the fact that Ashtanga was so restrictive, and that you weren't allowed to move on to another pose before you had mastered the previous pose. So he broke away from that completely and developed his rocket yoga, which you could come to whether you were a beginner, advanced, it didn't matter. And as I said before, there were no rules. You could do whatever you liked. You didn't have to master a pose first. This obviously did not sit well with the Ashtangis, okay, because it went totally against their philosophy of not being able to move on until you've mastered something previous. So he wasn't very popular with the Ashtangis, who thought that what he was doing was not correct because it went against the whole tradition of Mysore yoga, Mysore Ashtanga. Okay, so he wasn't very popular when he developed his power yoga. Right here, let's move on. Okay, so this is an example of a rocket yoga advanced series. If you have a look at the poses, your third pose in, you're in Bakasana, you're in crow. Okay, so that's quite hectic. Well, not your probably in this wouldn't be your third pose. This is probably a little bit further on in the series, but you do Bakasana. There's a Pincha Mayurasana in there. There's a lot of wide-legged forward folds. There's Pincha, I think you actually do twice in the sequence. So if you had to look at this sequence, it's a lot of, I would say there's half moon, there's warrior poses, there's triangle. Seems to be quite a hip-based and hamstring-based flow to me. If I had to look at it and think about what he was focusing on here, I would say it's quite hip-based and hamstring-based and probably a little bit of balancing as well. So that is just an example. I'm just giving you an example of if you had to go to a rocket advanced class, that is what you would expect. Okay, so power yoga is quite new. It only arrived on the scene in 1995. And besides Larry Schultz developing the first kind of power yoga, you then had different people that tried to bring in different things to make their power yoga a little bit different. So you had a lady called Beryl Bender-Birch who released a book called Power Yoga, the Total Strength and Flexibility Workouts. You had Brian Kest, who released a series of power yoga videos through Warner Brothers. You have Baron Baptista, who launched his own brand of power yoga in Australia. And power yoga is very popular. It's got a very good following in the US, and it's gaining popularity in Europe and Asia. And it is very popular in South Africa. People just seem to enjoy it, and they don't seem to mind the heat. The people that enjoy practicing in the heat absolutely love power yoga. Obviously, you get people who don't like the heat, in which case they will just practice normal vinyasa classes. But power yoga is very, very popular. We have a lot of practitioners that enjoy power yoga. So it attracts students who are looking for more of an intense workout. We don't generally use a lot of Sanskrit terms in power yoga classes. It's more, instead of saying Virabhadrasana 2, we'll say Warrior 2. There's not a lot of chanting. Okay, there's not a lot of music or anything like that, and not a lot of sitting in meditation. You do a little bit of meditation at the beginning of the class, and then you have your Shavasana at the end of the class. But in between that, it's basically more of a dynamic movement, fast-based class. So at the studios that I teach at, we're not encouraged to talk in Sanskrit, which I think is quite unfortunate, because Sanskrit is a beautiful language specifically based around yoga. And the purpose or the idea behind Sanskrit is that the names of the poses, so if I say Virabhadrasana 2 for Warrior 2, the theory behind Sanskrit is that the names of the poses, the vibrations of the names in Sanskrit actually stimulate or the correct muscles and joints that you're supposed to be using in the pose. Okay, so we don't use a lot of Sanskrit in power yoga or vinyasa yoga in the studios that we teach at, which is a little bit disappointing, because I think Sanskrit is amazing and I think we should be using a lot more of it. So yeah, and a lot of the students that arrive look for a power yoga class are not interested in the Sanskrit. They just want to move and breathe and have a workout and feel like they've done something that allows them to switch their mind off at the same time. Because power yoga is so dynamic and can be quite fast, there isn't a lot of time to give attention to alignment. So you can give 1 or 2 verbal cues in a pose to try and get people to align the pose correctly, but you don't have time to give a hell of a lot of verbal cues, and you also don't have time to adjust everybody in the class because it's very quick. So it did get a bit of a bad name at one point, in that people considered power yoga, because it was so fast and dynamic with very little attention to alignment, they considered it to maybe be a little bit, you have more chance of injuring yourself. Okay. Over the last couple of years, power yoga classes have slowed down in pace, I must say, and I've noticed it at the studios, and there is a little bit more attention to alignment, which is good, because if you are moving through through poses very quickly, you don't have time to feel the poses. You also don't have time to get feedback from your body. And so a lot of people push themselves too far, or they possibly have a chance of injuring themselves because you're moving a little bit quicker. So it's probably a good thing. It is a good thing that power yoga classes have slowed down a little bit in pace, because it gives people a chance to just feel out the poses and listen to their body a bit more. And power yoga, there's quite a bit of balancing, standing balancing poses, because balancing on one leg is always challenging. If you guys have done any vinyasa classes, you will know that balance is often the most difficult thing. And it's quite intense for people to hold a standing balance on one leg. So a lot of these classes include quite a bit of standing balances, also because it gives people a sense of satisfaction if they find that they can hold aeroplane pose, or they can single leg tadasana or figure 4 stretch, or something that they can stay in, and they feel like they've accomplished something. So it gives them sort of a sense of, wow, I actually managed to do that today, and it was a little bit better than what happened yesterday or the day before. Okay, so I've said at the bottom here, after many years of instructing, many power yoga teachers are encouraging a more well-rounded practice. And that obviously means a little bit slower, with a little bit more attention to detail and a little bit more attention to alignment. Because at the end of the day, you don't want your students to hurt themselves. You don't want your students to injure themselves, especially not in your class, because then they won't come back, and that defeats the whole object. So you want to try and keep your students as safe as possible, even in a power class. So there's Baron Baptista. He's a very popular power yoga teacher. Both his parents were yoga teachers, and they opened one of the first yoga schools in San Francisco. His brand of power yoga is known as BPV, which stands for Baptista Power Vinyasa. So if you see BPV anywhere in the world, you're going to know that it's his flow. It's Baron Baptista's power yoga. And his classes are generally, not always, but most of the time, heated to 32 to 36 degrees Celsius. This is an example of his flow, and he called his flow Journey into Power. And if you have a look closely, it starts off with Sun A and Sun B, Sun Salutations A and Sun Bs. Then it works into sort of your warrior poses, your warrior 2, your extended side angle, and chaturangas, upward facing dog, downward facing dogs. Then it moves on to quite a lot of balancing poses on one leg. You've got aeroplane, you've got half moon, you've got dancer's pose, you've got tree, you've got what is that one that also looks like aeroplane? Yeah, you have a lot of standing balances on one leg. And then, so his classes actually cover sort of the whole scope of what you want to be working into. Then he does a lot of back bending at the end, and obviously then a cool down into Shavasana with a little bit of forward folding just before that. So his journey into power sequence is quite a well-rounded sequence. You get to do a lot, and you get to do a little bit of everything. So you're gonna feel like you've accomplished quite a lot if you had to take one of his classes. If you have never seen Baron Baptista, or you've never heard of him, go and Google him on YouTube or whatever, and just have a look at his teaching and listen to the pace of his classes, listen to his instructions, and just get a feel for how different teachers teach differently. It's not a bad idea, and he's quite interesting. So I think I would love to practice one of his classes. He just sounds like an interesting, fun teacher. and his power yoga classes sound quite interesting. So go and have a look, give a little bit of a look at him on YouTube, and you can judge for yourself whether you think his classes are too fast or too slow or whatever. But just start to develop an idea of your own as to how different teachers teach different styles of yoga. So that's an example of his sequence written down so that you can read it and see what it's all about. And it's the same thing as I've mentioned before. It's your sun A, sun B, and then it's your standing, your equanimity, he calls it, is your standing poses, your grounding poses, igniting is all your back bends, stability is your core, and then he does some hip opening like half pigeon and frog, a little bit of forward folding, and then your rejuvenation is your closing down sequence with your shoulder stand, plow, and obviously then ending in Shavasana. So how do the different studios present power yoga? Because each studio that you teach at has a different formula. So some of them, most of them are fast-paced, vinyasa-based. A lot of them are heated, and some of them are more specifically core-based. So each studio tries to give their vinyasa or their power classes a different kind of feel, a different kind of look to attract different people, because not everybody likes the same thing. So, for example, at where I teach at Yoga Spirit and Yoga Zone, the owners of the studio like us to keep moving. They don't like us to hold poses for long periods of time. There is not a lot of core-based yoga. In other words, we're not on the floor doing bicycle kicks and crunches and all that kind of thing. But at some of the other studios in Cape Town, you will be on the floor for the last 10 or 15 minutes of a class doing core-based stuff like bicycle kicks and crunches and whatever else you can think of to do for core. That is not really yoga based, but they make that sort of an example of their classes to make their classes a little bit different. Okay, so if I had to go to a class, for example, at Yoga Life, I can expect a very fast-paced vinyasa-based class. I can expect it to be heated, but I can also expect a lot of core. Okay, if you go to Yoga Spirit, Yoga Zone, the core is not that important. We tend to stick to poses that work the core, like Navasana, boat pose. Yeah, I can't think of any others that are really. Oh, and your obviously your knee to nose and all that kind of thing. A three-legged dog knee to nose is also using your core, but we don't lie on the floor for 15 minutes at the end of a class doing core-based exercises. Okay, so that's how the different studios differentiate their power yoga to attract different people. So depending on what you like, you will resonate with one or other of these classes at one or other of the studios. Okay, so going into common vinyasa poses, you can take a picture of this if you like. It's basically 28 common poses that you will find in a vinyasa class, so or a power class. So don't forget, guys, that even though the classes are fast-paced, it is still yoga. And there are only a certain number of yoga poses, if you think about it. Unless you want to go and invent something yourself and give it a name. But if you look at yoga, there are a limited number of yoga poses. So what you're trying to do in a vinyasa class is sequence around whatever poses you have chosen, but to try and sequence maybe a little bit differently to somebody else. So although we're all teaching basically the same poses in a yoga class, the only thing that differentiates the sequences from one another is how you basically transition or move from the poses, between the poses. Okay, do you get what I'm saying? So you can't invent a whole lot of different yoga poses. There are only so many. And your job as a vinyasa teacher is to choose whatever you're working into, whatever you want to sequence for your class, and to try and think of different ways of sequencing to get into the same poses, because we are all basically teaching the same thing. Okay, not like we have a plethora of stuff that we can choose from. It's quite limited. Well, there's a lot, but there's only a certain number of poses. Okay. So there's just a picture of some of your common vinyasa poses. Skandasana is the one at the top with the lady in the black, side lunge. Knee to nose, three-legged dog, knee to nose is quite common. There's a few twisting poses. Cat and cow obviously is common. Your goddess squat or your horse pose. Your warrior flows, reverse warrior, extended side angle is very, very common in your vinyasa and your power classes. You have an example of a lizard lunge there, thread the needle to open up the shoulders. So this just gives you an example of a few of them. Okay. So now I did mention that not every vinyasa class is sequenced to a peak pose. Sometimes they are. Okay, sometimes they are. But basically, you are sequencing to progress to a more challenging pose or something that's a little bit more challenging for your students to work into. So anatomically, there's a lot of strength and flexibility work. If you think about if you are sequencing towards a bit more of a peak pose, you need to mimic the action of the peak pose in your poses that come before that. For example, if I'm going to be teaching crow pose, bakasana, I'm going to try and incorporate some other sort of poses where I can focus on dristi, which is your eyes, with leaning forward with your balance, and maybe leaning forward, maybe something like malasana squat to get the feeling of opening up the hips, some sort of arm work like chaturangas to strengthen the triceps for your arm balance if you're working towards bakasana. So you try and keep your poses based around the same sort of shape as what you're working into. It's always easier poses, obviously, to harder poses. The poses are often repeated, and the basis of a vinyasa or a flow class is that you link the poses with transitions, and that is sort of the tricky part. The poses are repeated so that you can get people not only to open up the muscles a little bit more by doing the same poses, but you can also get them to go a little bit deeper and probably feel a little bit more confident. So the first time they do aeroplane, it might not feel very stable. They might fall out of it and their balance isn't that great. But maybe the second or the third time that you come around and you do it or you teach it again, it feels a little bit more stable and people are able to hold it for longer. So it gives them a chance to just progress, even if you're not progressing to a peak pose. By repeating the poses, you're giving them a chance to progress within that structure of the sequence. So it doesn't always have to be a peak pose. For some people, just being able to stand on one leg without falling out in a class is a huge achievement for them. Okay. Is there peak pose sequencing? Yes, sometimes there is, not always. Okay. And I'll tell you why we don't always sequence to a peak pose. A lot of people who come to practice yoga enjoy the movement. They enjoy the idea of movement with breath. They enjoy the idea of being able to switch their minds off and just be instructed to move and breathe in a way that feels good for them. Okay. So vinyasa tends to be, as I've mentioned, fast and flowy. So there isn't a lot of time to break down a peak pose. Okay. In the classes, peak poses are often offered but not taught. For example, if we are in, let's say, twisted chair, I might say, okay, anybody who wants to take side crow, Parsva Bakasana peak pose or Parsva Bakasana pose, you can go ahead and do the pose. So you'll have people that move into your side crow. People who don't know how to do it will just stay in a twisted chair. If we're in Malasana squats, you can say anybody who wants to take crow pose, go into crow now. If they can't do crow pose, where do they stay? They stay in Malasana. So we're not stopping and teaching each one of those advanced poses in a vinyasa class. There's no time for that. Okay, unless you are sequencing towards it right at the end. Basically, what people want is all-rounded movement. They don't like to have the flow broken or stopped. And if you are going to be sequencing to a peak pose, a lot of the time you're going to have to stop the class. You're going to have to demonstrate the peak pose. and that breaks the flow. Okay, it stops your movement, and a lot of practitioners don't really enjoy that. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I don't always teach to a peak pose. Most of the time, it's just a lot of movement, a lot of breath work, a little bit of everything, like I've mentioned, standing balances, a little bit of back bending, a little bit of twisting, maybe 1 or 2 arm balances thrown in or offered. Sometimes we offer handstand hops for people that want to jump into handstand or anything like that. But basically what people want is to flow. So if you're going to teach to a peak pose, it means that often you're going to have to stop the flow. Okay. Also, if you're teaching to a peak pose, you might find that only in a class of, let's say, 20 people, only 5 people can do the peak pose, which means you're excluding a whole lot of other people who are just going to have to just sit there and watch because they can't get into it. Okay, so I don't always teach to a peak pose. Sometimes I do. I like teaching to a peak pose because we don't always get a chance to do them. For example, your 8-angle pose, your Ashtavakrasana, your compass pose, your side crow. It's nice to sequence to a peak pose. I enjoy doing it, but it means I'm going to have to stop the flow to show people how to do it and give them a chance to get into it. So it's not something that I do in every single class. Yeah, people just want to move and breathe and feel like they've accomplished what you're offering. And not everybody likes to sequence or come to a class where you're working to a peak pose. Okay, so these are some of the poses that are considered peak poses in power and vinyasa classes. So your bakasana, your side crow, your Ashtavakrasana, your Ekapada Kundalini. You can take a picture of this if you like, so that you get an idea. And these will all sort of be offered. So example, if we're in dolphin, I might say if anybody wants to kick up into pincha and you're proficient in it and you know where you're going, you can take your pincha mayurasana. And anybody that can't will just stay in dolphin. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to stop the class and demonstrate pincha mayurasana and then get everybody to try and do it. We don't generally do that. We offer it. People who can do it will go into it, and people who can't will just stay in something like dolphin. Okay, so it's a little bit unfortunate because it would be nice if we could sequence to a peak pose in each and every class, because it will take people to another level in their practice. Otherwise, you tend to be doing the same sort of thing all the time. But people aren't generally, a lot of people aren't interested in a peak pose. They just want to move and breathe. And as I said, just do what they can. And sometimes for them, it might be the only hour the whole week that they do anything. A lot of people sit behind desks. A lot of people have stationary lifestyles. So they just want to move and breathe and switch their minds off and feel good when they walk out of your class. Okay. There's some more peak poses, splits, birds of paradise. A nice beginner's peak pose is dancer's pose. And we're going to be doing that today because a lot of beginners can work into dances. It's not that difficult. Your standing hand to big toe, your full wheel, your Urdhva Dhanurasana is a peak pose. That's difficult. How many people in a class can actually do a proper back bend? Not many. It's difficult. I'm going to just talk about some of the people who are influencing the way vinyasa classes are taught at the moment. And one of them is Jason Crandall. And I'm sure Catherine or Laura or whoever's teaching at the moment would have mentioned Jason Crandall. He's a well-renowned vinyasa yoga teacher, and he encourages critical thinking around sequencing. So he encourages intelligent sequencing, and he emphasizes and encourages peak pose sequencing, but he moves very slowly. So if you want to, again, go and have a look at how different teachers teach vinyasa. Go and have a look at Jason Crandall teaching a class on YouTube and notice how slow his classes are compared to maybe somebody like Baron Baptista. Okay, it's a good idea for you guys. You just get an idea of how different teachers teach their classes. It'll maybe give you an idea of how you perhaps want to teach yours. Okay. Okay, so here's an example of some of his sequences, and he puts this up on his website. And as you can see, it's sequencing intelligently from easier poses to hard poses to more difficult poses. I actually like these little, I don't know what you call them, examples of sequences, because if I'm sort of running out of ideas or I'm not feeling very creative, I can go and have a look at one of these sequences. The poses are all set out for me. They range from easier poses to more difficult poses. So I can have a look at the sequence, let's say the one on the left, and all I have to do if I'm sequencing a class is add the transitions in between the poses, because the poses are all there for me. So if I'm a little bit stuck now and then, I might just go and look at this and I'll think, okay, how can I get from wherever, Prasarita, Padottanasana to your Parsvottanasana? What transition can I put in there that's going to make it fluid and easy to get from the one pose to the other? Because obviously he doesn't put the transitions in here. So it's quite a nice exercise for you to take one of these and see if you can sequence yourself. How do you move between them poses in a way that is fluid, in a way that makes sense, and that you can flow from one pose to the next? It's quite an interesting exercise to do. So if any of you are interested in teaching Vinyasa classes, I would suggest that maybe you give yourself a challenge one day and sit with one of these and see if you can flow from one pose to the other. Make it interesting, make it fun. Okay. Jenny Rawlins is another teacher who we follow quite a lot. She's amazing. She's a functional range conditioning mobility specialist. Her teaching emphasizes anatomy, biomechanics, physiology, and movement. She also brings in ideas like kettlebells and towels to slide on to work into different poses. And if you are stuck for sequencing, she posts a lot of quick, short little sequences transitioning between poses. Maybe even just, let's just say 3 poses, but she'll film the poses and transitions between those poses. So sometimes you can go and, if you're stuck for ideas, you can go and have a look at something that she's posted and see, oh, okay, that's how she flowed from, let's say, I don't know, triangle to figure 4 stretch, for example. I'm just using it as an example. And you can maybe just use that little one part of her idea to bring into your class, and that will help you maybe just sequence a little more. Obviously, you're not going to copy her whole class, because she doesn't sequence a whole class. She just does little bits and pieces of sequencing, but it's quite interesting because you can get an idea of different transitions or different ways of moving between the poses from her. Okay. Common Vinyasa transitions. Well, Skandasana, front of your mat, back of your mat is common. Star to horse is common. I don't know if you guys know any of these, but I'll just run through them. Prasarita, your wide-legged forward fold, can be used to change direction, because I can either, from Prasarita, I can do a halfway lift and then I can turn to face either the front or the back of the mat. You can use figure 4 and a cross-legged forward fold to change your legs. You can use a curtsy squat to change your legs. So if you're working on the right leg, you can do a curtsy squat and change it to the left leg. Reverse triangle to a low lunge. You can do reverse warrior to a low lunge. And you can walk forward to plank from the back of the mat, and you can walk back to a forward fold. So I can be at the back of my mat and I can walk forward to plank and back to a forward fold, just making the transitions a bit interesting. So this is...
Could I interrupt for a moment?
Sure, yes.
Would it be possible for us to get any of these slides as notes? Because I'm finding them incredibly useful. They're really nice.
Okay, you'd have to ask Catherine. I do send the recording through to her. What she does with it after that, I'm not sure. So please won't you ask her? I'm not sure whether she does or she doesn't, but just check in with her. Okay, I'm not sure. I send the recording to her, and then what she does with that afterwards, I'm not sure. But yes, if it is helpful, I would love you guys to get them as notes, because the whole point is teaching you. And if it's going to help and it's going to teach you, that's fantastic. Then I'm happy. So just check in with her. Okay. All right. So this is Skandasana, side lunge. What else can I do there? I can sit down and take a side body stretch. I can take a bind. So there's different things that you can do with your arms to make it a bit more interesting. That's a curtsy squat. Not very complicated, but it does work your quads and your legs a little bit, and you can choose different variations with your arms. That's your Prasarita wide-legged forward fold. You can turn to face the front or the back of your mat. It's a good stretch for the hamstrings. And you can also offer an inversion. So from Prasarita, an example as well of offering something for advanced practitioners is you can say, anybody that wants to take a tripod headstand or straddle handstand from Prasarita, you can go ahead and do it. And everybody else that can't just stays in their Prasarita, their wide-legged forward fold. Okay, so you can offer different things from different poses as well. 5-pointed star. I'm sure you guys must have seen this. Star to horse. So we'll go, this is quite a common transition, star to horse. We do that quite often. And from 5-pointed star, you can move into warrior 2, facing the front of the mat or the back of the mat. So often in a flow class, it's quite nice to change direction on the mat. You don't always want to do everything facing the front. You maybe want to get them to turn around and do a little bit of stuff to the back. It just makes it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun, and a bit more challenging. Because often in a vinyasa class, if you're facing the front, you're facing a mirror. And when you turn around, you lose the mirror. And so to maybe give them a balance, facing the back of the mat is a little bit of a challenge because there's no mirror for them to look at. And so if you don't have a mirror for a guide in a balance pose, it can be a little bit more challenging. So it's quite nice to change direction on the mat, make it a bit more interesting, and maybe give people a bit more of a challenge. Okay. Horse pose, you can also hold horse. It's also called goddess squat. You can add different arm variations. Holding that is quite fun because it's quite challenges people. So even just holding it for a few rounds of breath is a challenge for the legs. Reverse warrior, that's very commonly seen in Vinyasa and power Vinyasa classes. You can move from there to extended side angle. You can move from there to Prasarita, to half moon. She's got a half bind with her one arm wrapped around her lower back. So that's an option that you could offer for arm variations. Reverse triangle. Also, you can move from there to triangle. You can move from reverse triangle to low lunge. You can move from reverse triangle to half moon. So these are just some examples of how you can move from one pose to another. And you want to try and keep the movements, the transitions, as fluid and as comfortable as possible. Okay, must feel good in your body. If the transition doesn't feel good, then change it. Don't use it, because if something doesn't feel good in your body, it's not going to feel good in other people's bodies either. And you want the transitions to feel good. You want them to be smooth. You want them to make sense. So even though transitions are fun and they're part of a vinyasa class, you still want the transitions to make sense, and you still want them to feel good in your body. Okay. You want people to walk out of your class feeling good, not injured, not uncomfortable, not sore lower backs or anything. So you try as much as possible to keep your sequences interesting, fun, but most importantly, safe. Let's not forget, it's still yoga. Okay. Figure 4 stretch. You can take from there, you can slide into a cross-legged forward fold, and that gives you a chance to change the legs. You can do an arm balance from here. You can do your Ekapada Galavasana, your flying pigeon. You can do different variations. You can do eagle arms, hands in prayer. You can do arms out towards the side like wings. Yeah, that's about all I can think of. Or you can try and touch the floor with your fingertips. You can take a twist with one hand on the floor, and then you lift the other arm up and twist. So you can, there's a lot of different things that you can do from your figure 4 or your standing pigeon. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into peak pose sequencing, because that is what Catherine focuses on. But whatever you are doing, even if you're not teaching to a peak pose, some of these things that I've written down here still apply, even if you are just moving and breathing and going from easier poses to more difficult poses. Okay, so your action of your more difficult pose needs to be mimicked by your easier poses. Okay, I've also said what poses naturally transition into each other, and I've mentioned that before. You want your transitions to feel good and smooth. You need to think about, if you're using transitions, why am I using them? If I want to, for example, work into, let's say, birds of paradise, where you need a lot of hamstring opening, I might add in Skandasana as a transition, because Skandasana is a good way to open up the hamstrings, or half splits. So think about your pose, think which muscles and joints you need to open, and then try and use transitions which will enable that to happen. Okay, so you're tying everything together as you're sequencing your vinyasa classes. Okay, A good way to feel out if your sequence works or not is to practice it yourself. If it doesn't feel good in your body, it's probably not going to feel good in other people's bodies. So if something doesn't feel good for you, change it. Okay, it mustn't feel awkward. And if it does, how can you fix that? Ask yourself, does my Vinyasa class offer all-round movement? As I said, people want to have hopefully a little bit of everything so that they can work into different types of things. And you'll get some people who love back bending. And if they do a whole class and there's no back bending, they might come out feeling like a little bit hard done by because they didn't get a chance to go into back bend. So you want to try and offer something that's an all-round class. Ask yourself if you have modifications for beginners. That is always a good thing to think about, because you are going to have beginners arriving in your classes, and your class, if it's not a beginner's class, might be quite advanced and intermediate and challenging. So what modifications can I put in for beginners? And think about what you need to say, how you need to cue it, and that kind of thing. Also, teaching Vinyasa should be fun, and your classes should be fun. Okay, so they should be fun, they should be challenging, they should push people's buttons a little and just get them to feel like they've accomplished something. If you can get people to feel like they've accomplished something in your class, they'll come back. Even if it's, as I said, standing on one leg. Okay. You also need to remember that it is still yoga. So you need time to give your students to rest or regulate their breath in the sequence. So you can tell people at the beginning of a class, take child's pose whenever you need. But if you feel that your sequence is quite challenging and you feel, oh, after I've done that sequence, I actually feel like I need child's pose, then add it into your sequence. Give people a chance to rest. Put them in child's pose. Make them go into child's pose and give them a chance to rest and restore their breath. So you need to think about, where do you need to take a break? Where can you add a little bit of stillness to give your practitioners a chance to reset? Okay. Okay, so there's a lot that you need to think about if you're teaching a Vinyasa class. Okay, I don't want to go through this because I've said quite a lot of this already, but you want to maybe build strength by adding progressive loads. For example, you'll do 2 hands like a high plank, and then you'll go into a side plank, which is 1 arm balance, which is a little bit more challenging. And try and make it fun along the way. Try and make it fun. People like to have fun in the Vinyasa class, so don't take it too seriously. Okay, and teaching yoga is supposed to be fun. And for me it is. I absolutely love it. But so you need to think about all these things when you're sequencing in a class. Matt, you want to ask something?
Yeah, Bev, I was just wondering, is there any merit in, if you went to teaching Vinyasa, sort of separating your classes to make like a more advanced Vinyasa and a beginner Vinyasa? Is that something you've done before, where you specifically focus on maybe a peak pose in your advanced classes and then adjust for beginners, rather than do a more sort of beginner's sequence and then adjust for?
Okay. Good question. That depends on the studios. That depends on where you are teaching, because the studios will offer beginners classes and then they will offer Vinyasa classes. If you're teaching on your own, if you are at your own studio or wherever you're teaching on your own, absolutely brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant. Offer some beginners classes and then offer some intermediate classes. But where I'm teaching at the moment, it depends on the studios. If they are going to, for example, at Yoga Zone, there are no beginner Vinyasa classes. That's just not on the schedule. So you will have beginners who arrive in your class and they just have to do what they can. But at Yoga Spirit, they offer beginners Vinyasa classes. So it really depends. If you're teaching at studios, it depends on what the studios are offering. And it is always a good idea for beginners to take a beginner's class. But I can tell you now, a lot of people don't do that. I have a lot of beginners that arrive in my classes, and my classes are not beginners classes. They're not. And the beginners that arrive just have to do what they can. So if you have your own space, absolutely, definitely add beginners classes, and then add an up level to intermediate classes. Definitely. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Okay, we're not going to go into that. We've done that. We've done transitions. Oh, no, we're not going to go into that. Okay, now, just quickly, if you are sequencing, how can you sequence? Okay, so you can write your sequence out using key cards. Good idea to practice your own sequence. And this is so important, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. Practice your own. It's no use writing it down and thinking that it's going to work. You have to feel it in your own body. You have to practice it yourself. Okay. If you make a mistake, because believe you me, we're not all perfect and we make mistakes along the way, don't panic. Try and get back to a place that you remember and move from there. And if you can make a joke about it or make it a little bit lighthearted, even better, but don't panic. We all make mistakes. I've sometimes got stuck in a Vinyasa class and I cannot for the life of me remember where I'm going. And I've actually even asked some of my regulars in my class, I've said to Roberts, for example, Roberts, can you remember where we went to from here? Because I've gone completely blank. And then everybody has a good laugh. And then hopefully I can get my brain working and figure out where I'm going to and where I was moving to. So it happens. To the best of us, we sometimes lose our concentration and we make mistakes. Try not to take it too seriously. Okay, I mentioned giving your students a chance to rest, but it's also good for you to give yourself a chance to rest, to reset your mind, to focus on where you are going. So when everybody is in downward facing dog and breathing, just take time to slow down yourself. Take time just to breathe yourself. Focus yourself, keep yourself regulated as well. It's important. Okay. I want to question how we cue breath, but I'm going to do that after we've done the class because I want you guys to figure it out yourselves. And then the most important thing, as I've said, is to have fun. Okay. I'm not going to go into that. Oh, here's some common transitions. Malasana to crow. You'll see that often. Twisted chair to side crow. Often. Twisted lunge, that's the same sort of thing to side crow or to your Ekapada Kundaniyasana, which is the last pose that she's doing there. Okay. Chair pose to Navasana, very common. Okay. Extended side angle to birds of paradise, very common. It's taught in so many classes. Okay. Triangle to half moon, perfect, lovely, it works, it feels good. It's a good transition. Forearm plank to dolphin. That makes sense. You're on your forearms. You're going to walk your feet up into dolphin. So that makes sense. Standing splits. Obviously, from standing splits, you can kick up to a handstand. So if people are on standing splits, I might say, okay, anybody who wants to kick up into a handstand, go ahead. Otherwise, stay in your standing splits and you work your standing splits. And then I would give cues for standing splits while people are kicking up into handstand. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about music selection because this is just as important as anything else. And sometimes I must be completely honest. Setting or organizing a playlist is a lot more complicated than actually sequencing a yoga class, believe it or not. It is so difficult to find yoga music or music that is appropriate for yoga classes. It is so difficult to put your playlist together so that you start off with sort of slower music, build up to sort of quicker music in the middle where you're working a little bit faster, and then have very slow music towards your Shavasana. A little tip is to listen to the whole song that you are adding to your playlist, because I've had a song that started off very soft and gentle and I thought, wow, this is fantastic for Shavasana. I didn't listen to the whole song, and halfway through the song it turned into rap and I had to quickly switch it off. Okay, so guys, do not think because a song starts off slow that it stays like that. So sometimes I would recommend, if you're not sure of the song, listen to the whole song, please, so that you don't end up with rap in your Shavasana, because that's the last thing that you want.
That's hilarious. Thanks for the laugh.
Yes. I promise you, it was quite interesting. I've never run across a yoga class so quickly in my whole life to switch it off. And so I will never make that mistake again, believe you me. Also remember, the music is not the class. Okay, this is just personal preference. Okay, I don't particularly like going to a class where the music is so loud that the teacher is then shouting the instructions above the music. I just find that rattles my nervous system. It doesn't make me feel calm at all. Some people love it. Other people, if you practice at some of the bigger studios where the music is blaring and it's loud and the teacher is shouting at you, some people absolutely love that. I personally don't. I don't like to make the music the class. Okay, if you want music and you want to do that, as far as I'm concerned, go to the gym. So I like to keep my music, it's not quiet. You can hear my music, you can hear my song, but I'm not shouting. I'm still able to talk and give my instructions clearly without having to shout at the top of my voice above my music. Okay, so just be mindful of the volume of your music. All right, that's just my personal preference, but I really, and also you're going to wear your voice out. You're talking so much when you're teaching that you often get, we talk about yoga throat. And your throat gets sore. If you're teaching 3 or 4 classes a day and you are talking for 3 or 4 hours nonstop, it is exhausting for your voice. So if you are then going to have your music so loud that you are then shouting, I hate to think what your voice is going to be like by the end of the day. Okay, so just be mindful that you also have to regulate your voice. And talking for those amount of hours is tiring. Okay, by the time I've finished, sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody at the end of the day. My voice is done. I'm finished. Okay, depending on how many classes you are teaching. I just want to see what this is here. Singing bowls are awesome. Oh, yes, Elaine. Yes, singing bowls are awesome. Yes. What's that? Liquor.
Sorry, I was trying to I pressed send too quickly. I'm actually a professional public speaker.
Oh, awesome.
And licorice is very good for the voice.
Well said. Yes. Brilliant. Absolutely. That's such good advice. That's such good advice. Yes. Very good.
Licorice.
Licorice, not liquor. Yes, licorice is good for the voice. Because believe me, guys, your voice is going to take strain, especially if you're not used to it. The more that you practice, obviously, you get used to talking for long periods of time. But in the beginning, it's exhausting. It really is. So I like to just keep my music at a decent volume that I'm not screaming and shouting at everybody for 4 hours during the day. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop this share now. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about any of that so far? No. Good. Okay. I'm going to tell you a funny story. I have a regular practitioner that comes to one of the studios, and this is what I'm talking about, where people just want to focus and they don't want to have to think too much. We did a row lunge, which we'll do in our Vinyasa class just now. And I said, extend your right arm forward and your left arm back, and then change it around. And we did that a few times with breath. Okay, simple. I thought it was simple. The guy walked out of the class, and I know him very well, and he came to me and he said, do you know that having to think about which arm I had to put forward first threw me out of my practice and threw me out of my Zen completely? He hated it. And it was something so simple. So that's what I'm saying about Vinyasa. You need to be mindful that people just want to move and breathe, and they don't want to necessarily have complicated things too often that they need to think about. Okay, so you want to just give them a well-rounded, pleasant experience. And I didn't think it was difficult to put your right arm and your whatever arm forward, but obviously he did. He was quite honest with me, and he told me he just didn't, that just threw him out of his Zen completely. So I won't do that again. So that's just an example of what people want from classes. They don't want to have to think too much, and that's the issue with always teaching to a peak pose, is that people have to think about what they're going to do, where their body's going, and while you are demonstrating, people are sitting doing nothing. Okay, I like teaching to peak poses. I love it, because I think that's the point of yoga. You're taking people to a place that you have sequence towards, but it doesn't always work in the big studios where you are teaching 40 people in a class. Okay, so just bear that in mind when you're teaching. All right.
You can have different types of classes, can't you? I mean, like I'm going to be teaching in a very small community, and they're all going to be beginners like me, basically.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, you have one class that's like a beginner's class. You could have one class that's more prana. You could have another class that was more peak pose sequencing. Couldn't you? In a week, couldn't you have lots of different kind of classes?
Okay, I'm just going to give you a little bit of advice about that. I just want to close my door here. Sorry, just give me a second. Okay, yes and no. I'll tell you why. If you have your own space and you are in charge of what you are teaching, absolutely yes. If you are teaching at studios, each studio has their own formula, which they like you to adhere to. Okay, so
I'm not in the studio.
Okay, so if you're not in a studio, you have carte blanche to do whatever and teach however you like, which is amazing, because and you can offer all those things. If you're teaching at a studio, they have a formula and you need to stick to that formula, otherwise you don't fit in and you will not teach there. So it's a good idea. If you have your own space, you are so lucky, you can do your own thing. If you're teaching at a studio, my advice is go and practice at that studio before you start teaching there, so you get an idea of how the classes are taught, because it might not resonate with you. Okay, we don't do a lot of breathwork teaching in these classes. We might do Nadi Shodhana and Ujjayi Pranayama and maybe square breathing. That's it, basically. There's not a lot of breathwork that's taught in these classes. It's just too fast and flowy, and that's the way that we have to teach. So unfortunately or fortunately, it depends on you. You are prescribed by the formula of the studio. Each studio has a different formula. Okay, each studio expects you to teach according to that formula. If you're on your own, it's a different story. You are lucky. You can do whatever you like, which is great. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay, awesome. All right, so we are going to do, we're running out of time here. We're gonna do a Vinyasa class, but I'm going to have to make it a little bit shorter because we don't have an hour and I don't want to run over time. So we'll just do a 45-minute Vinyasa class, okay? Just so you can get an idea of flow. I want you to listen to the cueing of the breath. I want you to listen to how you cue breath all the time in a Vinyasa class. Okay, and you'll hear that when I'm teaching you now. All right. So have a break for 2 minutes. Have a sip of water, whatever you need to do, and then get onto your mat, and we'll do sort of a brief Vinyasa class, just so that you can get a feel for it. I'm not going to do the whole thing, and then we'll just run through some last minute questions at the end. Okay. Liquor, yes, that was funny. Actually, I don't know. At the end of the day, liquor sounds like a good idea when you taught 4 classes and you've got no voice and you don't just feel like speaking to anybody. Glass of wine.
Don't worry, I talk for 2 days at a time.
Okay, well then you'll know. Sometimes liquor sounds like a blooming good idea at the end of the day.
You use all your words.
Yes. I was honestly laughing for 5 minutes. Yeah, I can imagine. Oh, how weird. You have to have a little bit of a sense of humor around yoga as well. Whoopsie, what's happening here? Okay. Oh, I hope I haven't lost you guys. Shit.
No.
Oh, there we go. Okay, you're there. All right. Okay, so when you are ready, we had 2 minutes break. Yes, it's 20 past. Okay. Okay, so I'd like you to lie down on your mats in constructive rest. So lie down on your backs, bend your knees, get the soles of your feet on the floor, and then walk your feet out and pigeon toe your toes in, and let your knees knock together. Okay, I'm looking at the people that I can see. Okay, so lying down, knees knocking together, and take your hands and interlace them underneath the nape of your neck, and let your shoulders soften out towards the edge of the mat. Yeah. Okay. Close your eyes, seal your lips, and start to slow down your breath. Slow inhales, slow exhales. One cycle of breath at a time, you slowly start to develop a rhythmic flow to that breath. A nice ebb and flow of breath in and out of the nose, breathing with more awareness noticing how the breath is moving for you today. At the same time, you want to clear your thoughts, clear your mind. Switch off any internal chatter. You want to just approach your practice with a clear, calm focus. And you take 3 good quality rounds of breath. Maybe even starting to engage that Ujjayi pranayama already. So creating that constriction down the back of the vocal cords, breathing with sound, breathing with texture. Okay, take your hands out from underneath the nape of your neck and invite your knees into your chest. Hug them in, hold your shins, just give yourself a little squeeze. Then gently start to rock backwards and forwards along the length of your mat, like a couple of roly-polies up and down. When you're ready, you can cross your shins, roll over your feet and come into a tabletop. You're going to land on all fours. Good. Okay, when you're there, comfortably stack your arms, your hands underneath your armpits and your knees underneath your hips. Then we'll start to breathe together, power down through both of your hands. As you inhale, find a cow pose. Drop the belly down, pull your heart and your chest forward. Yep. Then exhale to your cat, belly in and up, round through the spine, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone under. Good. Again, inhale, belly down, heart and chest forward, arch the back, open up the front body. Exhale to your cat, belly in and up, round through the spine, engage your arms, straighten your elbows. 2 more rounds. Inhale, synchronize your breath with movement, drop the belly for your cow pose. Exhale to your cat, belly in and up, round through the upper back, pull in nice and high and tight. And again, inhale, nice and smooth as you open the collarbones, use your breath. Exhale to your cat's belly in and up, round through the spine and pause. Good. Find a neutral table on your inhale. And then just stay there for the exhale, power down through both of your hands. Good. Extend your right leg out behind you as you inhale. Your foot is off the floor, flex the toes. So kick the right leg out behind you, breathe in. Right leg out. Yep. Knee to nose as you exhale, curl in. Can you guys hear me? Ah, okay. Let me show you.
No.
Okay. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear me now. Right leg out behind you, inhale. Knee to nose, exhale, curl in. Right leg back, hold for your inhale. Knee to nose, exhale, curl in. Right leg back again, hold for your inhale. And again, knee to nose, round your spine, exhale. Right leg out behind you, breathe in. Land the right toes, your right leg is straight. Supported side plank. Inhale the right arm up towards the ceiling. Exhale to lift your right leg off the floor, kick out to the right heel. Breathe in to reach the right arm over your ear. So breathe into a side body stretch. Back into tabletop as you exhale, land on your hand and your knee. Inhale to your cow, belly down, heart and chest forward. Cat spine, exhale, belly in and up, round through the upper back. Tuck your chin, tuck your tail. 1 more round. Inhale, belly down, pull your heart through your arms. Belly in and up, round your spine, exhale to your cat. Neutral spine, so neutralize the table as you inhale. Pause there for the exhale, power down through both of your hands. Left leg out behind you as you inhale, kick out through the heel. Knee to nose, exhale, curl in. Left leg back, flex the toes, pull the belly in, breathe in. Knee to nose, tuck your chin, breath out. Left leg back again, hold for your inhale. Knee to nose, exhale, curl in. Left leg back, breathe in, pause. Land the left toes, straight left leg, exhale. Supported side plank. Inhale, the left arm reaches high. You're on your right hand. Exhale to lift the right leg off the floor. Get your heel in line with your hip. Left arm reaches over your ear as you inhale. Back into your tabletop as you exhale, land on all fours. Take your hands slightly further away from you as you inhale, tuck your toes. Downward facing dog, exhale, send your sitting bones up and back and come into your first down dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. And you can warm it up a little bit. You can pedal out through the legs one at a time. You can take a little shake of the head from side to side. Make sure there's no tension in the back of the neck. Just get familiar with being upside down and loading more weight in your arms, your hands, and your shoulders. So just notice how your body is feeling today. Good. And then when you're ready, you can hold your downward facing dog in stillness. Spread your fingers wide. Push into the mat. Lift your shoulders away from the floor. Good. Okay, lift your right leg up and back. Three-legged dog. Breathe in. Now bend your knee, open the hip, squeeze the heel towards your glute. So keep the leg up, but bend the knee and open your hip. Yep. You can do some circles into that hip if you like. Move the knee around nice and gently, one direction, other direction. Just make some space there. Good. Three-legged dog, straighten out the leg as you inhale, close off your hip. Step forward to a low lunge as you exhale. And when you get there, drop the back knee down to the floor. Anjanasana, inhale, lift your arms up alongside your ears. Yep. To your right, it's a vertical twist. Exhale, right arm back, left arm forward. Twist towards your right. Yes, spread your arms apart. Wide arms. Yes. Anjanasana, inhale, look forward, lift your arms up. And then cactus your elbows out towards the sides as you exhale. So bend your elbows like a cactus shape with your arms. Good. As you inhale, move your elbows back in space. And as you exhale, squeeze everything to touch, the forearms, the elbows, and the palms of your hands. Good. Again, inhale, open up, spread the front of your chest. Exhale, squeeze the arms together to touch. And again, inhale to open, make space in the front body. Exhale, squeeze elbows and hands to touch. Arms up towards the ceiling as you inhale, Anjanasana. Hands down towards the mat, that's your exhale. High plank, inhale, step your right foot back, plant your palms flat, high plank, good. Lower all the way down to your tummy as you exhale, bend your elbows, go nice and slow, don't drop your head. At the bottom, lengthen the tops of your feet down. Good. Cobra, inhale, lift your chest up to your Bhujangasana, hold there. Nice. Exhale, lower tummy and chest back down. You have two more. Inhale, lift up into your cobra, tuck your elbows towards your ribs. Exhale, soften and lower down. Good. Again, inhale, lift up, find your cobra. Heavy, untuck your toes, heavy in your feet. Nice. Exhale, lower all the way down. Tuck your toes. You can choose high plank or tabletop. Push up on your inhale, so you move through one or the other. Back to downward facing dog as you exhale, hips up high, heels low. Left leg up, three-legged dog, breathe in. Bend your knee, flare, open your hip, breath out. You can do some circles into that hip on the other side. Maybe one direction, then the other direction, feel it out. Good. Three-legged dog, close off the hip, kick the leg out behind you, breathe in. Step forward to a low lunge. When you get there, drop the back knee down. Anjanasana, inhale, lift your arms up alongside your ears. To your left, vertical twist. Exhale, left arm back, right arm forward. Take a twist towards your left. Good. Anjanasana, inhale, lift your arms up. And then cactus, bend your elbows out towards the sides again as you exhale. Pull the elbows back in space as you inhale, open your chest. And then squeeze everything to touch as you exhale. Keep it nice and strong. Squeeze the palms of your hands together and your elbows. Good. Inhale to open up. Spread your arms nice and wide. Exhale, squeeze everything to touch. Good. Again, inhale, open up. And last time, exhale, squeeze everything together. Arms up, Anjanasana, inhale. Lower hands down to the floor, that's your exhale. Step forward to a halfway lift, feet together. Inhale, lengthen your spine. That's all on the breath in. Good. Forward fold, exhale, bow over your thighs. Rise to stand, it's your high mountain. Big breath in as you root down through both of your feet. Samastitihi, hands to prayer in front of your heart. Exhale. High mountain, inhale, scoop your arms up, lift your ribs up, grow tall. Forward fold, exhale, bow all the way down. Halfway lift your chest as you inhale, lengthen. High plank, hands down, step your feet back. That's your exhale, hold. Body weight shifts forward slightly on your inhale. Low plank, chaturanga, lower halfway down or onto your tummy, you can choose. Upward facing dog or cobra, inhale, move into the back bend of your choice. Good. Downward facing dog, hips up high, heels low, strong in your hands, spread your fingers wide. Good. Right leg up, three-legged dog, breathe in. Knee to nose, round your spine, move forward, breath out. Three-legged dog, inhale, right leg up and back. Step forward to a low lunge as you exhale, land between your hands. High crescent lunge, stand tall on your inhale, your back knees off the floor. Pause there. To your right, it's a vertical twist. Exhale, right arm back, left arm forward. High crescent lunge, inhale, look forward. Arrow lunge, lean your body 45 degrees forward and reach the arms behind you. Reach the arms back. Yes, hold that shape now. Pull your belly in, tuck your chin. Just your arms. Inhale, reach both arms forward in line with your ears. Don't move your body. Good. Exhale, arms back towards the back again. And again, inhale, arms forward. Keep your shape. Pull your belly in. Good. Exhale, arms back behind you. And again, inhale to reach your arms forward. Exhale, reach the arms back to your arrow. Low lunge, fingertips down to the floor, breathe in. Pyramid pose, hips up and back as you exhale, gently work to straighten your legs. Low lunge, inhale, bend the front knee, ripple forward. Pyramid pose, exhale, hips up and back. And again, inhale to a low lunge, look forward. You've got it. Pyramid, hips up and back, tent your fingertips to the floor, pause there, drape your upper body over your right thigh, relax your head, relax your neck, and pause. Good. Low lunge as you inhale, look forward. Forward fold, feet together as you exhale, bow over your legs, empty your lungs. Halfway lift, inhale to a nice long, flat back. Good. Forward fold, exhale, bow all the way down. High mountain, inhale, stand up strong on both of your legs. Hands to heart, Samasthiti, exhale. High mountain, inhale. We take a little sun salutation, A, back to down dog. Forward fold, exhale, soften the back of your neck. Halfway lift, inhale, lengthen. Now you go, chaturanga, high plank, low plank, onto your tummy, you can choose. Upward facing dog or cobra is your inhale, pull shoulders away from the ears. Good. Downward facing dog, exhale, move back into your shape. Relax your head between your arms, keep your breath moving. Good. Left leg up, three-legged dog, breathe in. Knee to nose, round your spine, breath out. Left leg up, three-legged dog, inhale. Low lunge, quietly step your foot between your hands, exhale. Good. High crescent lunge, stand strong on both of your feet as you inhale, up nice and tall. To your left, vertical twist, exhale, stretch your arms wide apart. Nice. High crescent lunge, inhale, look forward. Arrow lunge, upper body 45 degrees, reach the arms behind you, hold that, pull the belly in, straighten your back leg, stay high up on the back toes. Just your arms, inhale, reach them forward. It's called rocket ship as you reach them in line with your ears. Good. Arrow, arms back behind you as you exhale. Again, inhale, reach the arms forward. Arrow, reach your arms back. One more time, just your arms. Inhale, reach them forward. And arrow, reach your arms back. Low lunge, fingertips down, sink your hips nice and deep, breathe in. Pyramid, hips up and back, breath out. Straighten both of your legs if you can. Good. Again, low lunge, inhale, ripple forward. Pyramid, hips up and back, exhale, fold over your left leg. One more time, low lunge, inhale, look forward. Pyramid, hips up, hold for the exhale. You can pause here. Try and flatten the back foot a little more. Relax the shoulders, soften your neck, roll shoulders away from your ears. Good. Low lunge, inhale, rock forward. Forward fold, nice and light. 2 feet together, empty your lungs, bow over your thighs. Halfway lift, lengthen, nice long flat back on your inhale. Forward fold, exhale, bow all the way down. High mountain, inhale, stand all the way up. Pause at the top. Little cactus back bend, cactus elbows down as you exhale, lift your heart up. Nice, high mountain, inhale, strong legs. Forward fold, exhale all the way down. Halfway lift and lengthen on your inhale, prepare for your vinyasa. High plank, low plank, chaturanga, or you can just step to downward facing dog. Check in with your own body. Make sure that you are comfortable with whatever you are choosing. Good, we meet in downward facing dog. Don't forget to breathe in your down dog. Good, use it as a resting pose, a chance to reset your breath. Good. Right leg up, 3-legged dog, breathe in. Knee to nose through the middle, breath out. Right leg up, 3-legged dog, inhale. Low lunge, step forward lightly between your hands, exhale. High crescent lunge, stand up tall, pull the belly in, breathe in. To your right, vertical twist, breath out. Good, high crescent lunge, inhale. Arrow lunge, lean your body forward, arms behind you, that's your exhale. High crescent lunge, stand up tall on your inhale, listen carefully. To the back of your mat, warrior 2. Spin all the way around, bend nice and deep into the other leg. Yes, good. Hold your warrior 2, strong in both of your legs, arms out to a T. Relax the face, relax the shoulders, but keep your legs working nice and strong. Good. Reverse warrior on your inhale, lean backwards. Keep that bend in your left leg. Breathe into the left side body. Extended side angle, forearm to thigh, right arm over your ear. Can you peel your chest up towards the sky as you hold your extended side angle? Good. Now keep your legs strong. Reach your bottom out, arm out in line with the top. So reach it out, lift it off your thigh and reach it out in line with your ear. Yes, hold for your inhale. Prasarita, wide-legged forward fold through the middle, toes parallel as you exhale, fold between your thighs. Good. Halfway lift on your inhale, lengthen your spine. Low lunge, front of your mat as you exhale. Back to the front now, hold a low lunge. Good. High crescent lunge, stand tall on your inhale, look forward. Aeroplane, glide into it as you exhale. Lift the left leg up behind you, reach the arms back. Aeroplane, guys, your back leg's off the floor. Yes, get your upper body and your back leg all parallel to the mat. Hold and breathe. Good, reach the arms behind you. Yep, you see how difficult it is to balance on one leg. It's enough of a challenge. So hold and breathe, guys. Beautiful. Nice. Okay, stay for the inhale. Listen carefully. When removing pose, stand up, interlace the hands on the left shin, pull the knee in up towards your chest, stand up tall and hold that. Now, take the leg behind you and hold your left ankle with both of your hands. Okay, you can hold your left hand onto your ankle and your right hand onto your foot. Now, as you inhale, start to tilt your body forward and kick the left leg up behind you. Okay, so keep your balance as you make a little bit of space between your body and that left thigh. So you have both hands holding that back ankle. You have the shoulder blades squeezing together and you're balancing on that right leg. Good. Good. High mountain, inhale, feet together, lift your arms up, grow nice and tall. Forward fold, exhale, bow all the way down, relax your neck. Halfway lift, inhale, lengthen. Chaturanga, high plank, low plank, however you're moving all the way back to downward facing dog. One breath, one movement as much as you can. Keep it smooth, keep it fluid. Nice, guys. Good. We meet in downward facing dog. Little reset before we move to the other side. Good. Left leg up, 3-legged dog. Breathe in. Knee to nose, around your spine, breath out. Good. Left leg up, 3-legged dog. Inhale. Low lunge, lightly step forward between your hands. Exhale. High crescent lunge. Inhale, stand firmly up. High crescent lunge. Inhale. Vertical twist to your left, exhale. High crescent lunge, inhale, stand up tall again. Arrow lunge, pull the belly in, lean your upper body forward, arms behind you, that's your exhale. Good. High crescent lunge, lift the chest as you inhale, squeeze, pull your belly in. Back of your mat, warrior two, all the way around as you exhale, bend nice and deep into that back leg, sink into it, strong legs. Bend your right knee a lot and get your knee over your ankle. Nice, guys. Relax the shoulders, soften your face. Good. Reverse warrior on your inhale. Lean backwards. Breathe into the right side body. Nice. Extended side angle is your exhale. Forearm to thigh. Top arm over your ear. Roll your chest up towards the ceiling. Make some space. Hold it there. Good. Now, pull the belly in. As you inhale, reach the bottom arm out in line with your ear. Strong. Hold it here. Prasarita, wide-legged forward fold. Exhale through the middle, toes parallel, hands underneath the shoulders. Good. Halfway lift your chest as you inhale, lengthen. Low lunge, front of the mat as you exhale. Square off your hips, square off your shoulders. Good. High crescent lunge, stand up tall as you inhale. Aeroplane, Dekasana, exhale, glide into your aeroplane. Lift the back leg up behind you. Reach the arms back towards your back heel. Yes, find your balance. Use your drishti, your focus. Hold it nice and steady, nice and strong. Don't forget to breathe. Yes. Good. Stay for an inhale. Wind removing pose. Pull the knee up towards your chest. Interlace the hands on the shin and hug the knee in nice and tight. Hold it there. Find your balance on your opposite leg. Now, take that leg behind you and hold your ankle with both of your hands. Good. Now, as you inhale, start to kick the leg away from you and tilt your upper body forward. Yes. Good. Get that thigh, that back thigh away from you. Yes. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. It's a tricky balance. See if you can hold it there, hold it there, hold it there. Beautiful. High mountain. Inhale, feast together. Lift your arms up alongside your ears. Forward fold, exhale, bow all the way down. Soften the back of your neck. Good. Halfway lift as you inhale, lengthen your spine. Forward fold, exhale, bow all the way down. Good. Halfway lift again as you inhale. Prepare for your vinyasa. You go chaturanga, high plank to low plank or onto your tummy. That's your exhale. Good. Move to downward facing dog, back to Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Nice and smooth. Keep breathing. Good. Okay. Take an inhale to lift your heels. Bend your knees, gaze forward. Light as you can, you're going to step, hop, or jump 2 feet between your hands. Yes. Nice. Halfway lift. Inhale when you get there. Forward fold, bow over your thighs. Exhale. Rise to stand. It's your high mountain. Inhale. Hands to heart. Samasthiti. Exhale. Chair pose, Utkatasana, inhale, bend the knees, get your arms in line with your ears, and you're going to hold your chair pose, work strong into your legs. Don't forget to breathe as you sit your hips nice and low, pull the belly in. Good, guys, get your arms in line with your ears. Good. Hold for an inhale, drop your hips a little bit lower. Nice. Forward fold, exhale, hinge over your thighs. Good. Halfway lift. Inhale, lengthen. Now listen carefully. High plank, hands down. Hold for your exhale. High plank. Good. Now drop your right shin down to the floor underneath you. Yep. And then you're going to scorpion the left leg up behind you. So as you kick the left leg up, you're going to bend the knee and arch your back. That's your inhale. And then pull knee to nose underneath you as you exhale around your spine. Left leg up again, scorpion tail behind you, inhale. Knee to nose, round your spine, exhale. One more, scorpion up behind you as you inhale. Knee to nose, exhale, round. Good. Scorpion leg one more time as you inhale. Tiger pose, take your right hand, reach back, hold your left foot. Kick your foot up into your hand, drop your belly down. Lift your chest away from the floor. So get into the shape with a little back bend as you drop the belly. Don't forget to breathe. Use your eyes for your balance. Good. Good. Now extend your right arm forward, left leg back as you inhale. And then land the right hand and the left toes. That's your exhale. Right leg up and back, three-legged dog. We move again. Inhale. No, knee to nose, exhale around your spine. Right leg up, three-legged dog. Inhale. Low lunge, step forward, nice and light. Exhale. High crescent lunge, stand tall on your inhale. The back of the mat, warrior two. Exhale, spin all the way around. Reverse your warrior on your inhale, lean backwards. Extended side angle as you exhale, forearm to thigh, arm over your ear. Good. Now 5-pointed star. Inhale, get your heels in and your toes out. Lift your arms up. Reach up nice and tall. Horse pose as you exhale. Bend your knees. Get low. 5-pointed star. Inhale to rise. Horse pose. Exhale. Bend your knees. Again, 5-pointed star. Big breath in. Horse pose. Exhale. Get a little bit lower. 5-pointed star. Inhale. Rise up. To the front of your mat, it's a warrior two. Exhale. Reverse warrior. Inhale, lean back into it. Low lunge, windmill hands to the floor as you exhale, land lightly. Good. Halfway lift. Inhale, 2 feet meet, lengthen your spine. Forward fold, exhale, bow down, soften your neck. High mountain, inhale, stand strong on both of your legs. Hands to heart, exhale, Samasthiti. You're going to take dancer's pose on the right hand side. Lift the right leg up behind you, grip your ankle from the inside. Lift the left arm up, turn the palm of your hand to face forward. Breathe in to lengthen up through the left hand side of your body. And then use your exhale to kick that leg behind you, just like you did in your tiger pose. Kick that leg up behind you, reach the right arm forward, and start to tilt your upper body down, closer down towards the floor. Don't forget to breathe as you hold your shape. Tuck your chin a little. We're going to hold it and breathe for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Samasthiti. Bring your feet together, seal hands to pray at your heart. Bow chin down towards your fingers, shake out the legs, have a little bit of a breather. Relax your face, relax the shoulders. Good. Chair pose with Utkatasana. Inhale, bend your knees, arms with ears. Vertical twist to your right as you exhale, arms wide apart. Chair pose, inhale, Utkatasana through the center. To the left, it's a vertical twist. Exhale, stay low. Chair pose, inhale through the center. Let's take a flying chair. Hands behind you. Lift your heels, balance on your toes. Reach the arms behind you. Hold this. High up on the toes. Your heels are lifted. Squeeze in the thighs together. Good. High mountain. It's a little bounce as you inhale. Rise all the way up. And a forward fold. Exhale, bow all the way down. Halfway lift. Inhale, lengthen. High plank. Hands down. Step your feet back. Exhale. Drop the left shin down to the floor. Scorpion, the right leg up behind you as you inhale. Knee to nose, round your spine. Exhale. Right leg up, kick it up. Hold for your inhale. Knee to nose, round as you exhale. Again, inhale, right leg up, drop your belly down. Knee to nose, exhale, round in. Right leg up as you inhale. Now pause. So on the left arm back, hold your foot, kick your foot up into your hand, drop the belly down. Strong in your right hand. Try and lift your chest away from the floor. Power down nice and strong as you continue to breathe in and out of your nose. Keep your balance with your eyes, keep your focus. Good. As you inhale, reach the left arm forward and the right leg back. Land your toes. As you exhale, left hand down, right toes down. Left leg up, three-legged dog. Breathe in. Knee to nose, round your spine, breath out. Left leg up, three-legged dog. Inhale. Low lunge, step forward. That's your exhale. High crescent lunge. Inhale, stand up tall. Back of your mat, warrior two. Exhale, spin all the way around, bend into your right knee. Reverse warrior on your inhale. Breathe into the right side body. Extended side angle, forearm to thigh, left arm over your ear. 5-pointed star. Inhale, rise to the center. Horse pose. Exhale, bend your knees, get nice and low. 5-pointed star. Inhale to rise. Again, horse pose. Exhale, get a little bit lower. Good. 5-pointed star. Inhale. You're going to hold your horse pose. So draw hands to pray at your heart as you exhale. Sit into your goddess, squat your horse, and hold it. Relax the shoulders. Soften your face. Feel the work of your legs. Keep your knees tracking over your toes. Tune into sensations. Know that it's not forever. Continue to breathe. Good. 5-pointed star. Big breath in. Rise up and out. Warrior 2, front of your mat as you exhale. Pause. Reverse warrior as you inhale. Lean back. Low lunge. Exhale. Windmill fingertips down to the floor. Halfway lift. Inhale. 2 feet meet. Forward fold. Exhale. Bow over your thighs. High mountain. Inhale. Strong in your legs. Hands to heart. Samasthiti. Exhale. Lift the left leg up behind you. Grip your ankle from the inside. Lift your right arm up. Turn the palm of your hand to face forward. Lift and lengthen to the right side of your body as you inhale. And then start to kick that left leg away from you as you exhale. Start to tilt the body weight forward. Reach the right fingertips forward. See if you can look forward. Don't look down. You're going to hold this. Confidence with your body. Confidence in your breath. Breathe in and out of the nose and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice. Samasthiti. Feet together, hands to prayer at your heart. Give the legs a little bit of a shake. You can get rid of that tension in the muscles. Good. Okay, we take Vinyasa squat. Step your feet out to the edges of your mat. Drop the hips and the pelvis down. Come into your Vinyasa squat. A little bit of a chance to release the legs here. So push elbows into knees. Relax the shoulders. Soften your face. Good. Okay, take a seat. So use your hands to support yourself onto your sitting bones. Move yourself way forward on your mat. Bend your knees, soles of the feet to the floor. As you breathe in, reach forward and connect the palms of your hands. Tuck your chin. And as you exhale, you're going to slowly roll all the way down onto your back. So very, very slowly feel your core engage as you get a little bit lower. One vertebra at a time, massage all the way down. And at the bottom, hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little squeeze, a little hug. Good. Okay, we take a rounded bridge. Soles of your feet to the floor. Take your hands alongside your hips. Stay for the inhale. Tuck your tailbone. Lift the hips and the pelvis up. Once you have that, you can shrug your shoulders and walk them closer down towards your feet. Lift up into your bridge. Keep your hips lifted. You can choose to interlace your hands underneath you or take them up and over your head. Keep them straight. Let your fingernails land on the floor. Good. Good. Pretend to squeeze an invisible ball between your thighs to active in your inner legs. Nice, guys. Look straight up at the ceiling. Good. Good. All right. If you have an interlace of your hands, return your hands alongside your hips. Keep your hips lifted. And as you inhale, lift your hips up a little bit higher. And then as you exhale, slowly roll down. So tiptoe your spine down, upper back, middle back, and lower back. Good. Gather your knees into your chest. Hold your shins. Hug them in. Give yourself a little squeeze, a little hug. Good. Float arms and legs up towards the sky. Legs up the wall. Viparita Karani. Just invert the limbs. Let blood flow away from the feet and the fingers. Do some circles into the wrists. Do some circles into the ankles. Just move your joints around. And then shake out the arms, shake out the legs, flick the fingers, flick the toes. Do something that feels good. Drain the tension and all the effort out of the muscles, out of the bones. And take a happy baby. Open the feet, open the knees out wide. Hold the feet, pull the knees down towards the armpits. Relax your face. Soften your shoulders. All right, gather your knees into your chest. And then give yourself a chance to curl yourself up into a little ball. So wrap your arms across your shins, lift your shoulders off the mat, lift your tailbone off the floor just a little. Set your intention for your Shavasana here. So start to soften your face and relax your shoulders. Stay for a big breath in. Shavasana, exhale, release into your final resting pose. Take up a lot of space. Allow your body to relax with your eyes closed. And let your body take rest. Slow your heart rate, slow your breath. Okay, I wish I could give you guys a little bit of a longer Shavasana, but we are running out of time. So take another minute or so to make your way out of your Shavasana and just come into a seat. When you are ready, don't rush, but we need to start to close off and finish off. Okay. All right, I did make that sequence a lot shorter than what it was originally planned to be, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it's like to move and breathe. One breath, one movement, to get the feeling of some of the transitions. Okay, so did anybody absolutely hate it? Or was it okay? Nobody hated it. Ah, good, yay. That's awesome. Okay. All right, the one thing I just want to mention before we close off, I want you to listen to the cueing of this breath and I want you to notice the difference, okay? So listen to this. I'm going to cue you through a little vinyasa or something, and you can listen to the breath and then you can tell me the difference between the two ways that I do it. Okay, so listen. Inhale, high mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Okay. Now listen to this. High mountain, inhale. Forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Chaturanga, exhale. Upward facing dog, inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. What was the difference between those two? Anybody?
The first one was breathing, then pose, and the other one was pose, then breathing.
Fantastic. Okay. Most teachers cue breath first, then movement. I like to cue the other way around. I like to give the movement first and then the breath. I just find it flows easier because if I say high mountain, automatically the breath, the inhale is going to follow. If I'm in a class and most of the teachers cue the breath first, inhale, I found like it's inhale, I don't know where I'm going. Inhale, where? Inhale, high mountain. Oh, okay, inhale, high mountain. Exhale, where am I going when I'm exhaling? Exhale, forward fold. Oh, now I must forward fold. That's just my personal opinion. I like to cue it the other way around because I find it's more natural. As soon as I say high mountain, you're going to be breathing in. When I say forward fold, automatically you're going to breathe out. Even though I'm still cueing the breath, I cue the breath after the movement. Play around with it for yourselves. Notice how teachers cue it in classes that you go to, and then you choose how you would like to do it. Okay, it's my personal opinion. It's just a little tip and something I'd like you to think about, to figure out for yourselves. For me, it just made my teaching a whole lot better and a lot more fluid when I started cueing it the other way around. Okay. Any questions, guys? Anything at all? No? know everything about Vinyasa. Fantastic. That's great. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to do another session where I'm going to give you more information about Vinyasa at the studios. And then I'll see you again for Hot 26, which is completely different if you've never done it before. So you can have a taste of that as well. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, think about them for next time, because we can always come back to this and you can ask me anything else you'd like to know. Okay. Thanks, guys, for being here. Have a beautiful rest of your afternoon, and I will see you again soon. Okay.
Thank you, Bev.
Okay. Bye. See you later.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.